So I stayed with classes. Okay. Okay. How's everybody doing? You good? Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so my name's Terry. I'm a member of the ACM. I'm also a member of the CAT. One of the things that I ran into when I first started classes here was the stumbling block of just learning how to use a command line interface, how to learn Linux. Like, I always use Windows. I love video games. GUI is like the normal thing. And then you come to this school and you're like, huh, what do you mean my interface to the computer is in a black and white text editor? Where are my clicky buttons? So I was like, all right, when I'm done with this, I'm going to make a class, and I've got a series of classes. They're mostly on Fridays. They're not always going to be just me, but this is the very first one where we talk about how to make your environment just a little bit friendlier. You've got better things to fight against than just talking to the computer. You're starting to learn how to program. You're trying to just survive these block of classes. And the very first experience with it is you're getting smacked in the face with a million new things and not just the materials from the class. So that's what we're here for, okay? And if you ever need anything, let me know. I'm more than helpful to, or more than available. But okay, so what you see when you first boot up the computer and enter any of these skills is a bash shell. So this is how you interface with the computer. This is like when you boot up Windows and you see a desktop. But you're going to actually say, I'm using a command line interface, and you're going to be using the GNU project shell. This is actually bash. It's the born again shell, and you're going to use this to talk about or to interface with all of the systems that the computer has at your disposal. Okay? Does anybody have questions so far? Okay. Okay, so first thing we need to talk about is getting to the school servers. The computers in front of you will automatically get to your home directory, but you can also get to your personal laptop. If you've got a Mac, CyberDuck is very popular. You can also use that to transfer files from the school servers back and forth. If you're using Windows, PuTTY is the much popular option. You're going to use that to SSH back and forth, and then use Windows Secure Copy to transfer files back and forth. Okay? So for what we're going to talk about, don't be logged into a Quizzer. If you're using a personal laptop, don't be logged into Quizzer. Quizzer is specifically set up to have you learn how to use the testing environments in Carla's classes, and we don't want to change any of the stuff so that your testing environment is preserved to how it's going to be for the proficiency demos. Yeah.
So does that mean that if we were, like I just did it actually, on my Mac, SSH, my tcrawl at Quizzer1, you're saying don't do that?
Don't do that.
So how do I get out of that?
So you're just going to type exit, and that'll close the window.
I just went straight terminal quit.
That works fine.
That's fine?
That's fine.
Okay.
So what you're going to want to do is you're going to do the same thing, SSH to you at Linux is popular, Ada, Babbage. These are all very viable options. Linux is the easiest to remember, though.
So it would be tcrawl at Linux
.cs.pdx.edu. Yep. Okay. And then we're going to actually be modifying your personal home directories to make them a little bit friendlier. Okay? You have a question? Yeah.
I logged in on the computer just with my MSEX account.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the right place?
Yes. It'll automatically take you there. Okay. You would actually have to purposely try to log into a Quizzer to do where you are. But yeah, you're there.
I've heard that CyberDuck is now available for Windows. Would you recommend starting there or doing PuTTY?
I would start with MotoX, actually, if you're starting from scratch. But PuTTY is by far the easiest to use. But if you want a all-in-one option, because it combines Windows Secure Copy and PuTTY, I kind of grew up with PuTTY, so that's what I use. And then I use Windows Secure Copy when I need to transfer files. But whatever is comfortable for you. I just want to give you options to show you, kind of point you in the right direction, say, this is what's going on. I want you to take it, and then I want you to make it your own, and then kind of explore from there. So if you want to use CyberDuck for PC, by all means. I haven't done it though, so I can't be
What was the one
of
that you said?
spectacular.
Modo?
ModoX. MoDoX.
So how would you use CyberDuck specifically?
So you would use that to move files back and forth. Because you're on a Mac, you would actually natively SSH. So on a Mac, you do have to give your login prompt because it's going to automatically give you the computer name to the system that you're going to talk to. But yeah, if you have problems later on, just I do TA. You can always send me an email, whatever you need.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so some basic Linux commands. The very first thing, it's not a coincidence. I want you to start tab completing as many of these commands as you can. When there's a big long string, tab complete is very much your friend. One of the tricks you're going to need to pick up is how to type as little as possible. A tab can complete so many characters, it is so much faster than typing. Okay? Another thing, while you're going through, you're going to go into a bunch of directories. And if you ever get lost, just remember CD is change directory, and the tilde is a short form for your personal home directory. This is especially useful if you type CD in your home directory and then ... It'll actually take several seconds for it to load the names of every single person that has an account on the school. And then you will be very, very lost. But if you type CD tilde from any location, it'll take you back to your home directory and you're now in a safe and well-known location. Okay? The next one is going to be ls. This is a list. So it'll actually show you what is in a folder. It won't show you hidden files though. It also won't show you the hidden items, the permissions for those items, and when they were created. To do that, you're going to create flags. So you're going to cite those flags is a -L. That's a long list. That'll show you the permissions and when they were created. The A is the ones that are hidden. So if you preface any file with a dot, that says tells the system that it's a hidden file and it won't automatically tell you. So a good example is swap files. We will talk about these later. But at this level, if you start using Vim or something like that, you're going to make swap files, and these are all hidden. To see them, you're going to be using an ls-a, and it'll come in real handy. Okay? The next one is to make a directory. When you're going and creating these new programs, it's going to be very easy to get lost in all of these files. Make your own folder directory. To make a folder, you type make dir. That says make a folder in Windows lingo. Directory in Linux, because we're going to be using Linux. So make a folder, and then you're going to put space and then name it. Okay? Now, because you have folders scattered everywhere, you're going to need to find them. To find something, you use the find command. So if you're looking for assignment 1 or something like that, you can say find and then what you're looking for. And then at the end of the day, if you want to remove stuff, remove will remove a specific item. Remove a directory will remove an empty folder. Write it now. I know there's different ways to remove it, but what I would recommend is for you to remove everything from a folder and then remove the folder. Unlike Windows, Linux does not say, are you sure you want to do this? Click OK. It does it if you tell it to, and there is no going back. Okay? Another thing I want to talk about is the man page. So later on, if you, for example, ls, if you can't remember how to create a long list, you can type man ls, and it will actually tell you. These are the options for ls, and then you can just pick the right ones. And right at the top, it'll give you the items that you're looking at. So if you actually type man ls, they'll tell you what you're looking at. Now, to piggyback onto the tab complete and to type as little as possible, you have the up arrow. If you type the up arrow, it will actually you'll actually review the commands that you've already done. You can also modify this. So if you run a command and you need to modify it slightly, it didn't do exactly what you wanted, you can hit the backspace, fix it, and then hit enter. Okay? Does anybody have questions on any of these?
What was the dash LA after the LS?
Well, let's look at the man page. Okay, so when I ls something, these are the folders I'm looking at. I know it's a little different. We're going to fix that towards the end. But when I ls, this is what I look at. Now, if I do a man ls, here's the A, so we can look at all. It says do not ignore the entry starting with dot. And when we go down a little bit, use a long listing format. Okay? So now let's go ahead and look at what the difference is. ls-l. So now we're looking at permissions. So if you look at the downloads folder and look at the GDB files, if it's a folder, there's a D. It means it's a directory. Read, write, execute, this is the first set of permissions. This is me as TET2. What are my permissions since I own this file? I have read, write, execute permissions. The next set of 3 is read, write, execute for the group. I'm a part of the them group. So anybody in this group has no permissions for this. However, root has read, write, execute for anything. So of course. And then the last one is everybody else. If you're not me, TET2, and you're not them, then what permissions do you have for that? Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah.
I was just wondering, for the find command, does that search just what's in the working directory?
You're going to tell it to.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do an ls-a. And now we see a bunch of new ones. So all of these dots were things that were actually hidden. Interesting. Okay. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, does anybody have questions so far? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to actually get into the environment. If you can go to your profile, and I want you to type each of these one at a time very carefully. So the first thing we're going to do is cd space / stash / ACM / profile. So this is actually, what this is doing is from your root directory, we're going to a bunch of stashes, which is a group of logical informations, and we're going to the ACM module. So this is the Association of Computing Machinery, and because I'm teaching this as an ACM member, this is a great place to stick it. And then we're going to actually be doing profile stuff. So we're going to the profiles, and then you're going to do an ls-a. All of the files in that folder are hidden. You're not going to be able to see them unless you do -a. Okay. And then I'm going to have you copy all 3 of those folders individually into your personal home directory. So cp is copy. And then you'll see these 3, the bash rc, the vim rc, and the bash _ profile. Copy to a location, and that location is tilde. Tilde is your home directory. Okay? One of the things I want you to focus on is don't do it just because you see it and it works. I want you to understand what's happening. It's not going to help you very much if you just do it. Please make sure you take the extra time to understand what you're telling the computer to do.
So the tilde is the home directory?
Yes.
And if you just put a tilde, it just says, just put that in my home directory.
Yep. That is exactly what you're telling it to do. So you could actually put slashes. So if you have like a 161 and you want it in, you could put tilde / 161, and it would actually move it to your home directory / 161.
Could you rename them theoretically if you did slash?
You could,
and
please
wrote
don't.
file name?
Just not right now. Oh, those things right there?
Yeah, yeah.
You could, but don't do it because the system is actually looking for these specific file names. Yeah,
So I apologize, what's CP stand for again?
copy.
Copy.
I want you to copy these. The other option is to move them. Please don't move them because it should give you an error, but if it works, I would have to put them back. Because a copy will do a copy of it. A move will do a copy of it and then delete it.
And to be clear, that tilde is space from that.
Yes, there is a space there. Yeah. You'll get a syntax error if you have the tilde there, because it'll be like, I don't know what you're telling me.
So if I go cp.bashrc space tilde
Mhm.
and do ls, and it just comes up with ACM my profile.
Yes. So when you do this, the cd tilde, that'll bring you back to your home directory. But right now, you're still in the stash.
So in our home directories, there was a folder called stash?
No. No. So what you actually did is, so what we're looking at is, in a Linux environment, root is a slash. Every single thing that is part of a computer or ever will be has to be installed under this slash. It's called root. And then you'll see a .bin, a .etc, various systems. You'll also see dev0 is pretty popular. One of them is a stash. And then inside stash is the ACM folder. And then inside the ACM folder is a profile folder. And then that has all these various items that we just moved to your home directory. Yeah.
So, sorry. Okay, I see what's going on. Okay, never mind.
Okay. All right. Has everybody moved these into your home directory? Okay. Now that you're in your home directory, I want you to do an ls-a and make sure that all three of those did. If they didn't, let me know. Oh, okay. Okay, so now what I want you to do is go ahead and look at what is in the .bashrc. I'm using Vim. If you want to use Nano, if you want to cat it, I don't care. Just look at, or if you just want to follow along with what's going on, that's fine too. So this first section right here, that allows for some tab completion under specific instances. It's not required for you to know it. It's just going to be handy later when you're using tab complete. It'll just work in various environments where it wouldn't before. When you start using get, this will start coming in handy. This will actually show if what your branch name is and whether it's clean or dirty. These will be handy for later. I would highly recommend you going to learn get, but we also have a get class in the next few weeks. This is kind of specific to me, so we'll look at the aliases now. So the very important part, I want you, this is one of the main points of this class, is to understand an alias. So when you're writing a function, one of the great things about a function is you can call it repeatedly over and over. You're no longer copying a block of code and just replacing that block of code exactly. You're actually abstracting away so it'll call at any time. So instead of the 20 lines that block is, you're saying this is now a function with specific arguments. You're doing that here. So this alias where ls equals ls hyphen hyphen color equals auto, when I LS'd, I could see at a glance what was a folder, what was executable, what is a binary, because color equals auto. I am not going to write ls space hyphen hyphen color equals auto every single time I want to ls, but I do want to see the colors every time I do a list, okay? So that's why I say, hey computer, whenever I type ls, it means this. So if I want to open up a Vim document, I want to specifically go, hey, I want all of the CPP files and all of the H files, and I want you to open them in tabs in Vim. I can type 4 letters instead of however long that string is. This is where I want you to really focus on, is I want you to type as little as possible, but I want you to understand what you're doing. Now, when I'm talking about all of this abstraction, none of this will work on your proficiency demo. So that's why I want to be very hesitant on what I give you, because there are different systems in place. I want to make sure you don't depend on those systems, because until you are done with the Carla classes, I don't want you to add more stress to a proficiency demo. Okay?
Which file is this?
This is the .vimrc, or yeah, the .bashrc, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't think I have.
You don't have a lot of this. As you keep doing your classes, you'll see more and more things. This is another one you should have though. Valgrind space hyphen hyphen leak check equals full. This allows you to search for memory leaks. That's a very long, complex string. I'm not going to remember that. But I can remember whatever I decide to tell it. When I'm saying you make these your own, you don't have to use valve G, that's what I use, but you can make it your own and say, maybe you could call it a check. You're also going to see a list specifically for CS333. I'm not going to go over those right now, but when you're doing CS333, I would recommend you talk to one of the cats, talk to me, to get your environment set up a little bit better. But there are things that are under the hood to help you later on. And I want to make sure that you're set up for success for that, okay? Yeah, so stuff like this is as new as last term, because I don't want to type that. I just want to go to the virtual machines where I have to turn in my homework. I don't remember any of that. All I know is I want to VM into my homework. Okay? Now, I want you to make your own one this time, okay? One of the ways to get to where you need to be at, so if you're in 161, I would recommend you make a new folder called 161 from your home directory, and then call it /A1 or assignment 1, something like that. So you're going to make a directory in your home directory, make it for your first class, and then call it A1. Okay? I don't know if you already have one. If you want, it doesn't matter. But I want you to understand this is what's going on. I want you to take an example of what's going on. Okay? And then when you're done with that, come back to here, and we're going to actually construct this alias work, because I presume you don't have one yet. You shouldn't have it in there. But you're going to type exactly how it is the line above, and it's going to say alias work equals, and you're going to put a single parenthesis. So first, you're going to change the directory, and this is where we're talking about earlier, where you're going to go to your home directory. So no matter where you are, it's going to go to your home directory, your current class, and then your current assignment. So right now we're going to be looking at assignment 1. Later on, switch this to assignment 2. You saw how easy it was to pull up. This is just a regular file. You can Vim or nano this or however. Go in there, and we can just modify that to whatever we need. And then we're going to take a couple of ampersands. You don't have to use the Vimo. I'm using Vimo now because this is what I'm familiar with. Say that again.
So I see the make directory, but I'm wondering how to make a file.
Oh, okay. So you're just going to say mkdir space and then name. So
So like CS162.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then if you type ls again, you'll see a CS162. Okay. So now now go into. Are you using Vim?
Yeah.
Okay. So now go ahead and vim.bashrc or .bashrc.
Okay.
Go scroll to the bottom, and then make a new line, and then type alias space work equals parenthesis cd. Okay.
You said bash LRC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now type alias space at the very end, alias space work.
Does it matter where, or just the very end of it?
Just at the very end. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you run the command change directory, go look at your home directory, change it to your 161, 162 class. After that is complete, this ampersand means once this is done, I want you to do this.
Okay.
And we've defined Vimo as I want you to open all the CPP files, all of the H files, in tabs using Vim.
Okay. I see that. So that's at the, for us, it's like.
So we're actually calling on a previous command, and then you have to close it so it looks like this.
Okay.
Okay? It's not going to work yet, so don't try it yet. But I just wanted to show you what the methodology.
So the Vimo opens all the CPPs and all that. What's an H file?
You'll get to that later. Don't worry about that yet. So
Give Vim multiple files, it'll open all of them.
with this syntax, yes.
Different window?
It open in different tabs. So it's not that important right now, but I'm trying to set you up for success for later. So when they're called header files, later on you'll get into it. Actually very quickly, within like assignment 2, assignment 3, you'll start messing with a header file. And then at the end of 202, you'll have 3 or 4 header files, and then maybe 5 executable files or CPP files. Okay? And this will, you'll actually kind of grow into it, and then it'll stay with it permanently. Did that answer your question? Okay. One of the things okay, now you should all see this line right here. I know this is weird, but I find this really important. What you're doing is you're creating a function. So the 2 parentheses is I want you to create a function and it says CDL. This is going to be for CD with a long list. So CD and list is kind of what I'm calling this command. So if you type CDL, it's going to CD the first argument, so whatever comes after CDL, and then list. So in basic C syntax, you're saying CDL is a function with a body of this. So these curly braces. This is where the function is defined. And it says this is the very first command. So it starts with 0 index. CDL is 0. Whatever comes after CDL is going to be the instructions. Okay? None of this is going to work, don't worry. I see you're rapidly typing it away. But that is what's going on here, okay? Does anybody have questions what's happening?
That CDL line, we're adding it to the bash copy.
Oh, you guys don't have it yet?
Oh,
You should have had it.
oh, I have it, yeah.
Yeah. It's just I didn't copy it over to my home directory yet, so I actually just found this out and I wanted to add it to this class. So you guys are the first ones to see it. Okay?
And so right now this bash isn't going to do anything?
It doesn't do anything because we're about to go to the next step that will implement this. Okay? So does anybody have questions about the bash RC? We're about to leave this place and then make this all work. So it'll all become magic. Okay?
I had my CS162 directory inside of the documents directory, so I just kind of added that here.
Yeah, absolutely. That works fine. That's
Is
perfect.
this going to work this way? I just added documents in there before.
Yeah, that'll be perfect. Don't worry, you got this. You got it. Okay. So now we're going to look at the bash profile. So we're going to vim.
Do we need to save or something before we leave that?
Did you make any change? Oh, you did. Yes. So in vim :Q:\W will get you out of that and save and quit. Okay, so now we're looking at the bash underscore profile. When you first log into the system, the computer is going to look for that folder. It wasn't there before, but you copied it in. And it's going to run this one command. Source tilde /bash rc. Because we had just made those changes, those will all be doing it. So go ahead and exit out of here, and I want you to type that command in. And let me know if you get an error. But if you don't get an error and you type that, you should get nothing. If there is no answer, it means you did it perfect. And then I want you to type ls. Your color should show up. The command work should show up. Yeah.
It says command not found.
You're missing an E on source.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and all of the functionality we talked about will work. So also, if you use CDL and then give it a parameter, or you could actually do it right where you're at. Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, syntax error expected in the file.
Oh, you're probably missing a final quotation mark. So just go vim.bash rc. And so this is what I put in down here. Yeah. Oh, try removing the last line there. Try that one.
Appreciate the patience.
Okay. Use the up arrow. Use the up arrow twice. There you go.
I actually got the same thing.
Oh, really?
Which error?
Syntax
Line
error,
37.
expected end of file.
Line 37 for mine.
Why is that not working? Do you have a character at the end there? Try going to the end of the line, hitting delete. No, that wasn't it. All right, add that back in. Is anybody else having problems with that? Weird.
Were you supposed to change the line 29 with the CDL at all? Because like it came with this one, but it was a little different.
Oh, that's why. Oh, okay. Yeah, change that from, no, it should be double quotes.
Double quotes?
No, I mean, it is double quotes right now. Let's see here. Is anybody not having the problem? Like it worked just fine? Let's see here. Bring up your bash RC again. All right, try doing a source again. Do source.
Try doing what?
Yeah. So type source. Space. Tilde. Dot. Or forward slash. No, get rid of the dot. Yep. Dot bash RC. Try moving the CDL to the last line. Maybe that's the problem.
Super basic question, but how do you copy and paste?
So to delete a line, you're going to type DD.
Oh, just DD?
Yep. And then type Shift G to go to the end, and then P. It's for paste.
Ah, okay.
And then do a right quit. Just colon Q, colon,
Okay.
colon W, colon Q.
Do I need to save it though?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
So if you do colon W, that'll write to the file. That didn't do it. But it's the same line. Try doing that again. Why is that doing that? Try deleting that.
The alias?
Yeah, so, no, not that. The CDL part. And then do colon W, and then I want you to type Control Z. Press and hold Control, press and hold Z, up arrow twice, enter. Interesting.
Okay, so delete that last line, the CDL line.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no worries.
Let me try to get his working, and then okay. Now type FG. Enter. And then hit U.
It remembers the undo?
Because I told you to do it specifically how to do that.
Oh.
If you had closed it, it wouldn't have saved there.
Oh, I
Try to delete the line above the CDL. And then hit Control W, colon W. Control Z. Up arrow twice. Enter. Weird.
It works
I
without
deleted
CDL.
the CD line. and
Without the
it's C4.
CDL?
Yeah, the other two work.
Okay. I'll have to look in more why this isn't working. So try, unfortunately, yeah, get rid of your CDL, write and quit. I will try to figure out why it's not working, but it was working when I did it.
When you type source and then this, what is source? Like what
So
is?
what you're telling source to do is you're saying, I want you to use these and make them part of my command prompt. So that's what source is doing.
So we're just getting rid of the CDL line?
Yeah, just get rid of the CDL line. I don't know why it's working, but it was working when I was testing it. And I don't know why it's not. But that's how you write a bash function. I wish I knew why it wasn't working, but I don't know why it's not. Okay. So anyway, is everything else working? So if you type ls, you see colors now?
Yep.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay, so now the .bash profile, it is actually going to run that command in the background that says, I want you to set these all these variables into my environment. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and look at the vimrc. So go ahead and use vim and do .vimrc. And this is the real reason why we did not use Quizzer, because we're going to be changing. No. Okay.
Okay.
Yours is going to be a lot shorter than mine. I meant to not have you look at that one. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. So the first thing we're going to do is set number. That will automatically make these numbers appear every time you open Vim. It comes in incredibly handy when you're compiling. It says error on line 15. You then go directly to line 15 and look at what's going on. The next one is set incremental search. So when you're typing something, it will actually highlight while you're typing, and as long as it jumps to the right place, you can just hit enter and then start messing around with stuff. If this wasn't there, it would wait until you finish typing. For highlight search, this will also is part of the highlighting thing. The first one actually jumps to where you're typing. The second one actually highlights where you're searching. So if I do a tab and type ink, it actually highlights it like that. That's what highlight search done. The set wild menu, later on when we're talking about Vim, we'll talk about that more in depth. But at the end of the day, you can actually open up various documents inside Vim. So notice how I started typing stuff, and then I hit tab, and it says, here's everything that's matched so far. That's what wild menu does. We're not really going to touch it, but a lot of this stuff is going to come in really handy for when you're opening up with various files. What you're usually going to use this for is, I want to look at the last project that I did, because I'm going to use part of that code for my current project, and I'll use it at least for a template. So you'll have one side with your code, last one is last assignment, and you're going to merge the two until it looks beautiful. Auto indent. When you hit return, it's going to look at the syntax what you were doing and try to make your tab stops match what you're doing. It comes in really handy when you're doing with while loops and for loops. When you do at the very top, GG equals G, and you'll see your curly braces not line up correctly. It means that Vim thinks you are not doing what you think you are doing. find out what's going on. And then the rest of these, the way to tell it to ignore what's going on is to put these double quotes in. When you get farther along, you'll look at these and be able to do stuff. So if you want to see trailing spaces, when trailing space becomes an issue, you can untab this, and it will actually show you if you're using tabs or spaces and if you have a trailing white space character. It's not that important for C++, but there are languages where if you put a space in the wrong place, your code does not work correctly anymore. So it's something to think about later. However, if I just give it to you and you forget about this, people will all of a sudden see a bunch of characters appear where they don't expect it, and it kind of throws them off. So if you want to play around with it, you can. You'll actually see, you can actually uncomment these. These are your files. Play around with it. Set indentation. This is more for when you start CS333. You no longer will be using 4-character tabs marks. You will use instead 2 spaces. So for that class, you would uncomment that little section of 4 things. Okay? Another one that I had meant to add is to Remap Cue. So one of the things happens when you type Q. See at the bottom left corner? Oh, you don't see it. See the recording right there? If you type Q, it'll mess you up. And what you can do is actually not know what to do, because it starts becoming unresponsive. It's not doing what I'm telling it to do. So what you actually have to do is type Shift G and then quit. And now you can actually take command back. But since that sequence, especially for when you're really scared about what's going on in your code, that's not a thing we want to do. So you can actually tell Q to be unresponsive when you're using Vim. I have never, in my entire time as a CS student, have done that on purpose. But I can't tell you how many times I've done it on accident. So it's one of the things to think about. Okay? You guys have any questions on any of this stuff?
What was the inc search?
Oh, so that's incremental search. So if you type a backslash and type something, it doesn't wait till you hit return to do the search.
Can you show us an example?
Yeah, sure. So to do any search, you start it with backslash. And then let's say I want to look at where I put wild menu. So I haven't hit return yet. So it's like, I didn't really meant that. I meant, let's say, auto.
And how is that different from the highlight, the HL search?
It's actually highlighting. So let's see here, what's at the bottom?
Oh, so those kind of work in tandem.
Yeah, so if I did a search for, what was at the bottom? So if I look for Smart Indent, no, of course, it's right up there. So let's say if it wasn't there, it would actually jump to the bottom. Soft, let's try soft. So the highlighting just highlights the other one actually will take you there automatically. And there's going to be more things. As you can see, like the one I use is about 4 or 5 times the length of this one. It's because when you're doing stuff, you're gonna find new methods that are important. But again, I don't want to give you too many because none of this is viable when you go for your proficiency demo. Okay.
So just having this file like makes it work in other like things that you're working on, or how do you get these like things to work?
Every time you open Vim, it's going to look for a vimrc, and it will load these options. If you wanted to ignore stuff, you put colons in, or the parentheses in front of it. If you want them to go away, you just remove them temporarily. So that's why you see those things that are there.
How did you know about these options? Like, where would you go to learn about what
You
options?
Google stuff. So a real popular one that's a double-edged sword is using the mouse. So if you looked at the one I was using, you would see a mouse option. However, if you enable mouse and you get used to it, and you go to a proficiency demo and Carla sees you touch your mouse, I would not want to be in your shoes. But I am now not in Carla's classes, and I like using a scroll wheel and a mouse to do stuff. So I did get used to it. But I don't want Carla to see me ever touching my mouse while I'm using Vim. So that's why it's not in here. Also, if you're doing a proficiency demo, it's kind of the same thing. If you get used to your arrow keys, and this is one of her big sticklers, if you even touch your arrow keys while doing a proficiency demo, it is not a good day for you. Get used to using like Vim Adventures. I highly recommend Vim Adventures to get used to the Vim commands. Yeah. And you don't pay for it, just do the introductory thing as many times as you want until you can just do it. It's well worth your time. Okay?
So in the proficiency demos, the colors will just all be white.
They'll all be white. You'll see none of this. So if you log out of this and log back into your Quizzer account, none of this will have happened. Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about any of these specific commands interfering with the basic Vim functions.
No. Some of them will be different. So if you like Google Remap Cue in Vim, I would highly recommend. Once it becomes annoying enough that you keep doing, if you don't care, you don't care. But if you keep hitting it at just the wrong time, it's something you could definitely throw in there. It's 2 lines long. It's like no remap cue or something. I can't remember what it is exactly. Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Okay, if you want, this is my email. If you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know.
Does this file just decided if you open them, it looks for it, so we don't
Yes.
source it?
You don't, because every time you open Vim, it automatically is sourced. We'll go kind of more in detail when so next week, we actually have a class that's Surviving Carla. And then after that one is the Vim Emacs class. Because if you'll notice, Carla's always saying, hey, if you want to talk about this, you can use Vim or Emacs. However, she never really talks about Emacs. She also doesn't really talk about the workflow of Vim, so that's going to be more what we're going to talk about in the Vim Emacs class. I would also highly recommend you start using Git, but there's only so much time I can pack into each of these classes, so it gets pushed back to about the middle-ish of the term, and then GDB starts playing a role at around right after proficiency demo, so that's when we have that class.
What's that? GDB?
It's so you can actually see what the computer is seeing as it's running your code. So we'll go into how to check. So if you've have you gotten a seg fault yet? So that's going to be one of the things. We're going to actually run through code, and one of them I've purposely written to segfault so that you will be able to take care of that yourself. So that's the tool you use, or it's doing something weird at this step. So you can do a couple of things. One, you can just write printf statements, or you can open GDB and say, what did the computer see at this step? And it's a very useful tool, and you will keep using it. Yeah.
Totally openly and candidly, just for me doing my first lab today,
Yeah.
doing this and things like that. Is it totally normal to feel like you're drinking from a fire hose?
Yeah, that is how I felt it, and that's why we're sitting here today, so that I can try to give you a little bit of my expertise. It wasn't till my third term that I knew about any of this, and I was like, this is way too late. Why didn't we learn about this at the very beginning? And so I took it upon myself to teach you guys how to do this from the very beginning, because especially the alias things, you saw some of the commands on what I use in production. That's not easy to remember, and nor should you have to, and you don't. One of the things you can also do is just type alias. Like, let's say you're about to run Valgrind, but you can't remember the command. You can just type alias, and it will pop up all of the aliases that you've mapped. So if you don't even remember what you set that alias, you don't need to open up your .bashrc. You just type alias, it'll give you a list. But yeah, between learning how to program, because let me tell you, when I started, I thought I knew how to program. I'd written a few programs, and I was actually annoyed that I had to start at 162 because I wasn't able to do the proficiency demo to test out of it. And oh my gosh, I was like, I've never programmed like this before, and it was very frustrating. And I was actually glad by the second week that I was taking a lower course, because it was rough. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So we went and we moved the bash file into the root, I'm guessing?
Into your home directory.
Directory.
Yeah.
And then we modified it and we put some new alias in there, I guess.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you have to put it back to where we found it for those aliases to be implemented?
So what we did is we took it from just a place, a nice place. We took a book off the shelf and we took it home with us. But the book was still there. We took a copy of it.
Yeah.
So the next person that comes by who wants that book can grab their own copy and then take that home with them. And then you took it home and you drew in it. And then you put it on your own shelf.
So now my account, when I log in, will have those.
Will have those changes. Your personal copy of that book you took from over there has all of your drawings and all of your figures in there, and it'll always be like that.
Okay.
So you don't have to ever go back and get a fresh copy unless you want to. If you do stuff and it becomes a big, huge, snarly mess, you can always grab a fresh copy. You can move that one somewhere else, because the computer only looks in your home directory. So you could actually make a backup folder and move that to backup folder, and you already know where to go. So you could grab a fresh copy that's pristine and has none of your cool fancy tricks and stick it on your bookshelf. And then the computer will look at that. You'd still have to source it or log out and log back in for it to work, though. Okay? Okay. Anything else before we wrap it up? Okay.
You want me to stop?
Yes, please.